It's about responsible athletes, and we talk a lot about you being personally responsible for the skills in the routines. If we've positioned you in the routine for a round off flick full or a round off full, then that's your personal responsibility. It's not the team's responsibility, it's not the coach's responsibility. It's your responsibility to make sure you have that skill. That's what we talk about being responsible as an athlete. To just put in perspective what responsible athletes do as opposed to what irresponsible athletes do. They talk about irresponsible athletes failing to recognise and follow through. So that would be if you've said to your stunt group that you're going to meet them for practice, or you've even told yourself, I'm going to get up early and go for a run, and you don't. That's what an irresponsible athlete would do. Or just if you're telling yourself you're going to do something, it's following through. It's so people can rely on you and trust you, and it also helps you build that self-trust with yourself. So not letting other people down, and actually just mainly about not letting yourself down, so that you know if you say you're going to do something, you'll do it. So irresponsible athletes rely on their coaches or other people to motivate them. It's about being self-motivated. That's what responsible athletes do. So like just before when we were doing this, a stunt group wasn't hitting, and I came up and I was like really grumpy and, you know, yelled at you guys and said hit the stunt, and then it hit. I shouldn't have to either fearfully make you hit your stunts or come in and motivate you and go, you can do it, when internally you can do it yourself. And if you can do that yourself, that's just such an amazing skill to have, because you can use it outside of cheerleading and do it for anything. So trying to self-motivate yourself at practice is a really important thing to do. So if you could do that, that would be awesome. Irresponsible athletes expect to be praised for doing very little, for basically just doing your job. Don't expect to be praised for everything or get upset or grumpy or sulk if that doesn't happen. So, I mean, we've got that quote up on the wall. Oh, never stop doing your best just because someone doesn't give you credit for it. So I really like that one. So that's kind of what that one's about. Irresponsible athletes play the victim role and complain when things go wrong. And I guess they don't own it. They're not taking responsibility for their part and why something might have happened. Offer lame excuses. There's a ton of people that can bring a billion excuses when they come to practice. That's not going to help you get forward or be successful, so excuses don't help with anything. So would do. You're not owning the choices that you've made for the start of your day or whatever it might have been for when you come to practice. Blaming their coaches or their teammates when things go wrong. So if you've got a stunt group, if you've got a stunt and it drops, looking around and blaming the coaches for giving you a stunt that's too hard, or blaming your bases or fly. That's not the way that we build a really successful team or become a responsible athlete. And then last, which you guys are great at and doesn't happen, but it has happened in the past, encouraging your parents to fight your battles or send me emails when you can't make practice or whatever that might be. We do need you guys to be responsible athletes. So if you have an injury, you need to stop. If you are sore, please don't be too scared to come and tell us, because that's not being a responsible athlete. Our goal is Worlds, it's not Spring Carnival in 2 weeks. So if you're pushing yourself to the extreme and you get yourself injured, you're doing a disservice to yourself and the team and to us as well. So it's best if you're injured to please make sure you're resting, or telling us, will we be upset, will the team be upset? Absolutely, but that's part of sport, that's what happens. But we would make do, and we would make changes and make that happen, but you really do need to make sure that you're being careful and taking care of your injuries. That's a really important thing to do, and that's what makes it a responsible athlete. So firstly, they take charge of their choices. What does that mean? Every day you have dozens of choices that you can make that are either going to set you up for success or set you up for failure. It's how much sleep you had, what food you're eating, it's what mindset you're coming into practice. It's a whole bunch of things. Did I stay up late and watch Netflix? Was I on my phone Instagramming or like scrolling through when you could have been doing extra practice or flexibility or stretching or any of those things. So remember, every day you have choices that are either going to set you up for success or failure, or set you up for mediocrity, which is the good. So like the choices that you make can have long-term consequences. So I would really think about what type of choices are you guys making each day to set you up for success if your goal is to be successful at Worlds. The second thing responsible athletes do is they make helpful versus hurtful choices. So along with knowing that you have lots of choices to make each day that can set you up for success, it's also choosing to make the right choices and not hurtful choices. So on your way home or leading into practice, you could decide to make sure that you've got fruit and the right food to eat, or a hurtful choice might be, oh crap, I didn't, I'm going to drive through McDonald's on my way home, grab some McDonald's and have a Coke. And I don't know if any of you guys do that or not, but that's just to give you an example of what hurtful and helpful choices could be, yeah? Discipline selves instead of expecting other people to do this for you. So that kind of comes down to that motivation one. So making sure that you are self-disciplined when you set goals for yourself, that you actually achieve them, that you make sure that you're doing the things that you're expected to do for the team, but also for yourselves as well. For responsible athletes, control the controllables. In sport, what does that mean? So the things that you can't control in cheerleading is what other teams do. So worrying about how good other teams look that you might be competing against, like for example, if we were at competition and there was an amazing team that we're going to be competing against and you were watching them, you could start worrying about that. Oh my goodness, they're so good. You can't control that. So that's the type of thing that we talk about is uncontrollable. So basically, for the things that you can't control or uncontrollable, just sort of let them go. It is what it is, so you can't control it, so there's no point in worrying about that stuff. But the things you can control for cheerleading is your mindset, the attitude you bring to practice, the things, the way you see your stunt group. You know, maybe it's the visualizing your stunt group hitting. You know, those are the things you can control. Other things that are outside of your control is the choreography we give you. So there's no point worrying about that because that's what we give you. That's our job. So your job is just to do that stuff really well. But there are things that you can absolutely 100% control, and that's what's going up in your mind. So what radio station are you playing? Is it negative? Is it positive? What have you got going on upstairs in the head, your thoughts and feelings when you're coming into practice, and how can you make sure that you've only got like really positive stuff when you come and try, you know? One of the big things I think is your mindset when you're at practice. So we're 2 weeks out from competition, and I know if it was competition today and we put a routine out there, it would look amazing. But at practice, you guys don't show us that same commitment, and we don't see that same routine. So we can't do the best for you guys if we're not seeing your full potential at practice. That's a real mindset thing, because it's like it doesn't matter. And for cheerleading, it's a really hard skill to have because we don't have competition every week. And it's not like you're going into a rugby game where someone's physically going to hurt you and, you know, there's practice happening all the time. We have to be self-motivated for cheerleading, to be giving our very best every time we come to practice. And that's just a really good skill to have, not just for cheerleading, but when it's that good to great thing again. So going into schoolwork or exams and all of that stuff, putting in the preparation and doing the real hard work. So owning and learning from your mistakes. There's no point beating yourself up if you make a mistake, because it doesn't help. The way to do that is teach it as a learning lesson. So making mistakes is such an important lesson for us to learn to be successful in. So I always think the more mistakes I make, the better it is. So taking that into context, then the run you guys did must have been amazing because there were billions of mistakes. But for us coaches, we got to see a whole lot of stuff. So that was good. So we can learn from everything that we've done. So I guess it's just the way you think about learning. If you think about them like failure, then they're going to be failures. If you think about mistakes as learning opportunities and reframe it in a really positive way to go, I learned so much from that, I'm not going to do that again, then that's a real win, and it's better than being successful the first time. Follow through and finish the job. So again, all of this is kind of coming down to self-discipline, self-trust, telling yourself you're going to do something and following through and actually making it happen. That's kind of the key to everything. So for you guys right now, like we said, we're not going to be giving you a super clean routine that we expect to hit, although we would love it to hit. But by dumbing it down and making it easy for you to hit, we're not going to reach our goals. But there's 100% things that you guys can take control of. So you guys are in control of doing extra stuff. So I saw Dan post up a video of Team NZ last year coming and doing 6 a.m. practices. which is awesome. I'm not expecting you guys to do that, but I'm sure there are an extra 15-10 minutes that you can get together with your stunt group to make it hit or do something better or improve yourself as a team. Because individually, from what I've heard, you guys are doing a whole lot of stuff. Your Catafit page is awesome. You guys are working really hard individually. We now need to pull those mini groups and subsets of teams together so that we can get that stuff bonding and gluing really well as well.